We start by seeing an injured man fleeing from the police until, very tired, he hides to catch his breath. His name is Mek. Blood runs down the street when suddenly, someone in black clothes and a mask, who possesses some sort of supernatural power, makes the blood float and offers the injured Mek a gift. The strange figure says that it will let him live, but in exchange for his loyalty. Mek, seeing that his end will likely be death, accepts the offer. The mysterious man then lifts him using his power and causes him pain by imparting something to him. When the police arrive at the scene, all they find is a pool of blood moving along the wall. The scene then shifts to a young monk named Chan, who while meditating has a vision of the same masked figure causing destruction and terror in a large city. The temple he lives in is hidden among the mountains, and before Chan leaves, his master calls him for a talk. The young monk says that he cannot waste time and needs to leave to stop the threat before it is too late. The master asserts that Vichian is dead. He is no longer a threat, as he is in the other realm. However, Chan says that his father found a way back to this realm and will not stop until he destroys all land. The master does not stop the young monk from leaving because if the necromancer has truly returned, he must leave as quickly as possible. The scene shifts to Bangkok, Thailand, where a couple and their daughter arrive to spend family vacations. The man is named Jake, his wife Prang, and their daughter Lu. While Jake handles business on his cell phone, Prang excites Lu to see her grandmother soon. They take a van and head to a hotel before heading to their main destination in the city where Prang grew up. After reserving their room, little Lu excitedly heads up and is amazed by the view from above. Moments later, the family goes out for a boat ride on the river that runs through the city. Jake is still resolving work issues, and Prang chides him to prioritize them, as he previously had more time with them, even though he was a street cop. He tells them he will do better, and they continue their outing. They pass a fair, and the couple ends up having a romantic moment and kissing, leaving Lu alone. When they turn back to their little girl, they realize she has vanished from sight. The couple then frantically runs to find her. Thankfully, the little girl is crossing a bridge just after the fair, and Jake sees her. Coincidentally, little Lu is talking to the monk Chan, who is holding a blue butterfly. Her parents approach and scold her for straying from them. Jake thanks the monk for what he did, and Lu says that he knows who Jake is, even without her mentioning him. When the two leave, Jake is called to attention by the monk, who says that their meeting was not by chance. Chan says something confusing to Jake, stating that he is the guardian of the gates, as he is the only one born of death, on the night of a blood moon. He adds that Jake will face great challenges and lose everything, but in the darkness, he will find the light, enabling him to live true love with his family, ultimately being free. Jake is confused and does not give much credence to what the monk said, then leaves the place. The family heads to an ice cream shop in the mall, and while they are enjoying ice cream, Mek, still alive, suspiciously arrives at the location. Prang takes Lu to clean up in the bathroom, and on their way, the little girl sees the strange man looking and waving at her. People around do not notice, but Mek is armed. When a man bumps into him, he does not seem to get upset, but after moving away, he eliminates the man from behind. Thus, the madman begins an attack in the mall against anyone in his way. Terrified people flee in panic, while Jake goes to find his wife and daughter. The mall guards cannot handle the enemy and are easily killed. Still with the spirit of a cop, Jake tells his wife and daughter to hide, as he must act. He approaches the spot where the criminal Mek is about to take more victims. Cautiously, he gets closer, grabs the gun from a dead security guard, and points it at Mek, ordering him to surrender. The madman, however, utters some strange words revealing he knows a bit about Jake, aware of where he is from and that he has a family. Mek's appearance shows that he has something inside him and does not care about killing anyone. His shots nearly hit Jake, but unfortunately, yet another woman falls victim to the madman. More police arrive at the location, trying to stop the terrorist, but Jake is faster and shoots at him. Mek pronounces strange things, stating that hell has arrived, that his master told him the guardian would be there and the ritual would be complete. He thanks Jake for killing him, and then smiling, his body begins to glow and subsequently explodes. The explosion spreads throughout the city and releases a strange smoke that envelops the people around the mall. The most bizarre thing happens. When Prang and Lu exit the building, they see people attacking and killing each other. Scared, they return inside. They go to one of the stores, not knowing what to do. She hears banging nearby, and upon observing, she sees a woman attacking another person. Suddenly, a man appearing to be crazy tries to assault Prang, but she quickly takes him down and runs with her daughter. However, more aggressive people are coming in their direction. She tells Lou to slide down the side of the escalator. Luckily, Prang manages to knock down the enemies in front of her, and after that, she grabs her daughter and they run away. When Jake regains consciousness, he and the cop look around to check if the enemy is still there. The lawman introduces himself as Arat and asks how they survived the explosion, but Jake cannot say. Prang and her daughter head outside the mall and already on the streets, observe that people have gone mad. Terrified by everything happening, they manage to lock themselves inside a nearby convenience store and see that death has already passed through there. Arat asks about the crazy shooter who blew himself up, since they don't find his remains there, nor those of the people who were killed. The policeman begins to get worried about the occurrence, and then they hear noises like screams echoing around. They check upstairs and encounter a woman with her back to them holding a blade. Arat approaches her, offering help, but when the woman turns, her face no longer appears to be that of a normal person. She attacks the policeman, and unfortunately, poor Arat dies. Jake shoots at her body, but it has no effect. The woman attacks, but fortunately, he knocks her down and manages to move away from her. However, the creature is not defeated and soon rises again. Jake hides, but the woman, no longer a normal human, walks on the ceiling, leaving him terrified. Suddenly, he is dragged among the clothes and tries to shoot at the woman, but misses all and barely escapes the blade's blows. He runs to the floor above, but cannot find his family. Meanwhile, Prang and her daughter decide to return to the hotel to wait for Jake since grandmother's house is too far away. Prang grabs her cell phone but discovers it has no signal. She then goes to the front desk to see if the landline is working, but suddenly, a crazy man enters the store. His eyes are no longer dark, but rather a completely blue tone, as if possessed. Little Lou tries to hide from the man who is sniffing her scent. When the little girl becomes cornered, Prang surprises the possessed man and knocks him down with a baseball bat. Back to Jake. He searches for his family but finds no one, only the demonic woman who wants to eliminate him at all costs. But this time, he manages to pin her against a pillar with a rope and leaves her there, uttering horrid shrieks. Meanwhile, Prang manages to exit the store and is moving among the buses in a terminal, hoping not to be seen with her daughter there. Thankfully, a normal person calls the two to get inside a bus, and there they are safe. Prang asks the driver why they are not leaving, but he says he does not have the keys since his bag fell and no one inside has the courage to retrieve it. Jake walks through the mall when suddenly he sees the possessed woman free and hunting him again. Not finding him, she enters a pool of blood in the wall, something like a portal. Seeing that no one would go out to get the bag, Prang decides to take the risk to retrieve it. Upon succeeding, she returns to the vehicle but is dragged outside. Luckily, one of the bus occupants goes out to help and ends up becoming a victim of the possessed instead of Prang. But now, with the keys back, the driver manages to get them out of there. Jake seems to arrive at the same bus terminal where his wife and daughter were, but as if in a different dimension, as everything around him appears abandoned and devoid of life for a long time. He quickly realizes this when a gigantic, monstrous humanoid being emerges and begins to follow him. However, he narrowly escapes and manages to distance himself from the giant creature. In the bus, the driver reaches an area where there is no way to pass, so Prang and her daughter decide to continue on foot. The two proceed along the highway among the wrecked cars toward the city center, which is in chaos. Meanwhile, the gigantic humanoid continues the pursuit of Jake, who soon comes across a dead end. Luckily, the monk appears through a door and invites him in. Chan says that the giant cannot catch them there, and that if Jake wants to return to his family, he must follow him. Not understanding anything, Jake follows and asks where they are. Chan says they are in his room, a safe place, just in another reality. The realm they are in is called Obstacle, an environment between heaven and hell, a place that houses those who have gotten lost during their journey. Jake is questioned about what he remembers and what the shooter in the mall said to him. Jake says that the man called him Guardian and that his master was resurrected. The monk confirms the title of Guardian bestowed upon Jake. However, he is the guardian of the gates of hell. Chan states that Jake's actions completed the ritual, thereby opening the gates of hell, and demons are free to roam the earth, possessing the weak and causing destruction and death. The monk confesses that the enemy is his father, a very powerful necromancer named Wichian, and it will not be long before he returns with all his power. Chan declares that the ritual is complete and soon the gate to hell will be fully opened with no turning back. However, Chan states that if Jake opened it, he is the only one who can close it. Jake asks why he is the guardian. Then the monk explains the reason. He says that Jake was born from a death birth, where his mother died giving birth to him, and that this happened on the night of a blood moon. Jake does not care about his fate and only wants to find his wife and daughter. Before he leaves, the monk states that if Jake helps to close the gates, he will be saving his family. Jake then accepts and decides to help. Meanwhile, Prang and her daughter reach the hotel and slowly head to their room, trying their best not to make noise so that the possessed people do not hear them. However, this is futile as they are seen and attacked. Prang, with great effort, manages to get rid of all who appear and finally enters her hotel room. Through the window of her room, Prang and Lu see the city outside, in complete chaos and destruction. Prang tries to contact Lu's grandmother, but the line is out of service. The little girl is very scared by everything happening, and her mother comforts her. Jake and the monk walk through the streets of that dark dimension to find Mek, who is also there. The monk tells the story of his father, the cause of all this, and how he became what he is now. He explains that his father was also a monk, but thirsty for power, he stole 2 scriptures from his master: the scripture of architectural eternity and the scripture of soul energy absorption. The scriptures, as they were being read, also consumed the man. Seeing that his body was falling apart, he needed a new one and tried to steal his own sons. However, his mother managed to intervene, and Wichien lost his body in the physical realm. But in the failed possession, he inadvertently left something to his son: his knowledge of the 2 scriptures, both the architectural one and the one of energy absorption of souls. Chan comments that if he could return that knowledge, he would, as he does not desire it. However, while they are still talking, they hear a woman scream in the building next door, and Jake, without thinking, runs to save whoever it is. Chan shouts for him not to enter, but the deluded man does not hear him and goes in. Chan follows Jake, but soon has his path blocked by a creature. At that moment, Jake reaches the rooftop of the building, and seeing the woman about to be caught by other creatures, he runs to her, knocking down others along the way. Upon reaching the woman, he realizes it is the same young woman who was killed in the mall earlier by Mek. Jake says he saw her in the mall, and she remembers, stating that at that moment, she was trying to call her ex-boyfriend, who had cheated on her. At that moment, the gigantic creature approaches where they are, and Jake pulls the young woman so they can hide. But before they can enter through the door again to go downstairs, the monster destroys everything, and they are forced to change direction. Even running as fast as they can, the creature grabs the young woman and then devours her head, carrying her body away. Chan arrives just as the monster departs. Later on, Chan explains that the young woman was merely the lost soul of the girl who died in the mall, and that the giant monster is known as Preta and devoured her soul. Chan then finally reveals that Jake was killed in the explosion. The man panics with this information and wonders how he can help his family now. Chan also explains that the knowledge of the scriptures has given him the ability to walk in both dimensions, both the physical and that one. Jake still cannot understand how he can do anything to help his family, who are in the physical reality, since he now belongs to that reality. Chan then explains that for this, they need to find a receptacle for him and calls him to do that. Prang and her daughter are at that moment resting locked in their hotel room when she hears knocks on the door and someone calling her name. She sees it is Jake's voice and opens the door, seeing him right in front of her. However, at that moment, we see that in the other dimension, Jake is still walking with Chan. They are being followed by a demon, and they hurry to get out of there. However, when they enter the place they need to be, they find it filled with demons. Chan says the portal is further ahead, and they move cautiously not to stir the creatures. Even so, things begin to approach dangerously, and Chan is then forced to fight. He fights well, and after knocking down one of the demons, they keep running. Upon entering through a door, they encounter a cinema filled with other types of monsters. As soon as they reach the exact location, Chan uses his staff, and with a very strong lightning light, makes the creatures disappear. In fact, they have reached the physical world, and now, when exiting the cinema, Jake sees he is in the body of a strange man. At that moment, we see the false Jake in the room with Prang. We see that, in fact, it is Mek possessing the dead body of Jake. At this moment, Chan with the real Jake is heading toward where Prang and Lu are. Chan then gives him a different weapon, asserting that Jake's weapon will not have the effect they need. Upon learning that Mek is with his family, Jake rushes to reach the room quickly. Prang and Lu begin to find the behavior of the false Jake very strange, while Chan with the real Jake is getting closer. But when they arrive, there seemingly is no one left in the room. Suddenly, Jake hears Lu's screams coming from downstairs, so he runs desperately to reach her. Arriving there, he stands in front of his family, but he is not recognized, as what they see is a strange man to them. Suddenly, Mek, in Jake's body, strikes him with a chair on the head and knocks him down. After Mek accuses Jake of various things, such as not being a good father and husband, they engage in hand-to-hand combat. When Jake gains the upper hand and is about to strike his opponent, Prang points the gun at him, not realizing it is her husband. Jake says it is him, and Mek screams for Prang to shoot the stranger. But Lu, already noticing something wrong, begins to ask if he is really her father, and Jake makes a sort of oath, affirming he is indeed himself. However, with a gesture only he and Lu knew. Nevertheless, Prang ends up shooting the visually strange man to her, and with that, Jake returns to the other dimension. He is immediately attacked by one of the creatures. At that same moment, Mek, still in Jake's body, reveals himself and opens a portal to the other world, frighteningly calling them to enter. Jake is barely saved by Chan and is being cared for by him. After explaining where the enemy is going to open the gates and stating that Jake's family has probably been taken, the two prepare. Upon arriving at the location, they see an old mansion in the midst of many trees where the gates of hell are. At this moment, Mek is taking Prang and Lu to the main side of the gates in the physical world. When Weiqian arrives, Mek tells him he has done everything as ordered, bringing to that place the blood of the Guardian, referring to Lu. Weiqian says that her blood will be enough, and when Prang tries to flee, several strange figures appear to stop them. Chan and Jake, still in the other dimension after seeing the giant creature pass, are approaching the exact place, and soon Chan sends him back to the physical world. Weiqian is about to complete the ritual using Lu, when suddenly Jake arrives in another body and begins to fight against all controlled by Weiqian. Jake skillfully fights with the special knife Chan gave him and eliminates the possessed ones. Mek then enters to fight Jake, and the two fiercely confront each other. Prang, seeing that her daughter is still in the enemy's hands, picks up one of the fallen special weapons and shoots at Weiqian. And with Prang's help, Jake manages to take down Mek with a gunshot. The man immediately ends up in the parallel dimension, where the giant monster soon comes toward him. Mek is grabbed and mercilessly torn in half. At that moment, while Weiqian confronts his son, Jake strikes him from behind. But he also uncovers a truth. Weiqian says that Chan did not fully explain what is needed to close the gates of hell. His last words before vanishing are that for such an act, the Guardian must enter through the portal. Jake is devastated and goes to talk to his family. He bids farewell to his two beloved people and, crying, asks Chan to take care of them. Jake walks with Chan, saying he will find his way back. Chan says he believes in him and that he can succeed, that his journey is only beginning. As Jake enters the gates of hell, his family arrives safely at Lu's grandmother's house. In the end, we see a woman appearing where the gates were closed and, with a gesture, seemingly opens them again.